People are afraid to say them. Here's the first one. The fundamental assumptions of Western civilization are valid. How about that? Which countries do people want to move away from? Hey, not ours. Which countries do people want to move to? Ours. It's because we got certain fundamental assumptions right. Thank God for that. After thousands and thousands of years of trying. And because of that, we've managed to establish a set of civilizations that are shining lights in the world. One of the things we're doing right, for example, is that we actually value the individual, right? Do you know how long it took people to formulate that as an idea? Useless, powerless you, with all your damn faults, you're actually worth something. You're worth something to the point that the law has to respect you. And then you got to ask yourself just exactly what sort of people are trying to set things up so it is that the individual doesn't matter very much. And I might suggest that you don't elect them, and that when they attempt to take power, that you do everything you can to stop them. Peaceful social being is preferable to isolation and to war. In consequence, it justly and rightly demands some sacrifice of individual impulse and idiosyncrasy. So you have to cooperate with other people, and that means you can't get to be your whimsical self 100% of the time. It means that most of you has to be sacrificed so that you can be approximately like everyone else. And the rules aren't there to oppress. They're there to keep us away from each other's throats, because human beings are very warlike. And if we are fortunate enough to have woven together a social fabric that basically renders us peaceful and cooperative, we should try disrupting that at our great peril. Because the general rule for human existence throughout the centuries has been turmoil and war. And we don't have that here. And so thank God for that. And it's worth a bit of a sacrifice. Next, hierarchies of competence are desirable, and they should be promoted. If your father has a brain tumor, you probably want a hierarchy of competence for neurosurgeons, so you can pick the one that's the best, so that he might not die. We need the best carpenters, we need the best lecturers. There has to be a hierarchy of quality. Why would you strive for anything if there was no up to strive for? If you have a great educator, if you have a great leader, if you have a great thinker, you want to reward them so they keep thinking and they keep educating so they can tell you something. It's not a reward for their intrinsic being. It's a calculated move on your part to suck everything out of them that's valuable as fast as you can. That's what a hierarchy of competence is for. If everything's flat and equal, well, when you're starving or dying, then everyone's equal. Next, borders are reasonable. How about that? Without borders, everything mashes into the same untenable state of undifferentiated chaos, and you can't live in that. Let's be a little bit clear that if you stand up and say, yeah, borders, they're okay. They've got their problems, but they're okay. That doesn't make you a bigot beyond redemption. It just makes you someone with some sense. And they say, well, the border should be open. It's okay, man, no problem. You hand over that laptop right now. And everything else you own too. If you don't like borders, and you can get rid of the damn walls in your house, and you don't need doors on your bedroom either. There are a lot of countries in the world that are not governed well. And they've been not governed well forever. And to me, that means that there's something wrong with the values that are held collectively by the people who've established those polities. Well, you shouldn't be naive and assume that merely because you move them to a new country, they're going to let their innate democratic longings flourish. It doesn't work that way. People should be paid so that they are able and willing to perform socially useful and desirable duties. Because you're saying to them, produce. We find what you're producing of value. And so we're going to give you what you need in order to be motivated to keep doing it. But it's not because we like you. It's not because we respect your rights. It has nothing to do with equity. It's we're trying to get every goddamn thing we can from you as fast as possible. And we're going to pay you to do it. And so people deserve their damn pay. And the reason they deserve it isn't because it's a reward. It's because that's how you get productive people to do things that are difficult and time-consuming and that perhaps they wouldn't do on their own accord, to continue doing them so you can benefit from it. So the whole notion that, we're awarding positions of privilege to oppressive patriarchal types, it's like we just have to get rid of that. Enough of that. That's nonsense. Citizens have the inalienable right to benefit from the results of their own honest labor. That's a good one. Yes, that's a conservative truism. Goods tend to distribute themselves inequitably. It can be a problem, but it doesn't mean that there's something fundamentally corrupt about the social structure that's driving it in that direction. But there's lots of people out there who have the money they have because they would really like to do interesting and creative things with it, not because they're interested in gathering more, paper money to stuff in their mattress. You think that about Steve Jobs? You think that about Bill Gates? I mean, good God, I don't know how, those people made a lot of money, but man, thank God they were around, They've given us some tools that are just absolutely unbelievable. So, maybe we could leave the jealousy of the successful behind for a while and notice now and then that some of the people who got to where they are actually deserve to get to where they are, and we should be thankful that they exist. That would be nice, a little gratitude. It is more noble to teach young people about responsibilities than about rights. That's a good conservative message. It's like you have a son, or you have a daughter, and you say, bloody well, grow up, stand on your own 2 feet, make something of yourself, right? So that I can be proud of you when you come over, and so that maybe you're useful in a crisis. It's like, pick up your damn load, and shoulder it, and do something useful, and forget about your damn rights for a while. You can think about what it is that you should be doing to benefit yourself and your family and society, and you'll find some purpose in your life because of that. And so, well, that's a counterposition to the perpetrators of the endless rights buffet, right? Well, as long as we give you enough rights, you're going to be what? Free? You're going to be happy? It's like, yeah, sure. You'll drown in a sea of chaos. And that's what's happening to people now too. So, and that's why young people are so hungry to have someone talk to them about responsibilities. When you hear someone in a stable society stand up and say, excuse me, there's something rotten at the base here, and it's affecting the manner in which the legislation that our country is producing is being rolled forth. When they say that, you should think that person is probably a charlatan and has something wrong with them. Because look, the culture works pretty good. The country has worked really well for a long period of time. And so the logical initial response should be, yeah, you think there's a fundamental problem. Why shouldn't we just assume that there's a fundamental problem with you? And one of the ways that you determine that is you throw things at the person, metaphorically, and see if any of them stick. And so, look, when someone stands up and says there's something wrong, the first thing you should ask is, why should I assume that you know what the hell you're talking about? That's a good question. Well, you investigate it and you find out whether or not the person does know what they're talking about. Radical change should be viewed with suspicion, particularly in a time of radical change. There's never been a time in the history of the world where things are changing as fast as they are now. And not only are they changing fast, the rate at which they're changing is increasing. Like, we're moving fast forward at such a rate that it's unbelievable. You can't even keep up. I don't care what discipline you're in. It's like, it's not so bad to have some people putting their feet in the ground, they're digging their heels in and say, look, we got a lot to swallow already. We got a lot to chew on and digest. Let's not muck about with everything that's worked so far. The government, local and distant, should leave people to their own devices as much as possible. One of the great advantages to conservative philosophy is that it's humble. It's humble from the perspective of social experimentation. It's not like everything's great and we should just continue going the way we're going. It's like, well, everything isn't as broken as it might be, and I'm kind of stupid and blind, and all I have is a bat, and probably hitting it isn't going to make it any better. All I'll do is shatter it. And so the conservative says, it's working. Be quiet. Sneak away. Maybe it'll keep working. And that's a perfectly reasonable perspective. If there is something that conservatives could agree on that we could stand up for, it's the nuclear family. We could even say, let's try to support the traditional family. Why? Well, maybe boys and girls need role models of each sex. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but it is possible. And there's no reason that conservatives can't stand up and say, look, we're willing to tolerate alternative family arrangements. But when you start making the claim that the traditional family unit is just another construct and that it's not something fundamental to our polity, it's like you've taken your damn argument too far. The point of marriage is to tough it out, and you don't tough it out for your happiness. That's not what you're in there for. You're tough it out so that you have someone to tie the rope of your life together with the rope of someone else's life, and to make it strong, and to make a place that children can have some security and some encouragement, and thereby contribute to the future and pay for the miracle of your birth and your own raising. That's why you get married. It's not anything to be ashamed of to say, well, it kind of looks like that structure's worked quite well for the entire duration of mankind, and so maybe we mess with it at our peril. Okay, and this is what I would close with. Okay, so how do we judge our political system? Well, we don't judge it by the dreamlike, ill-informed, ideologically motivated, pathological utopias of the radical left, or the radical right for that matter. What you do instead is you take a look at your country and you think, okay, how is it doing compared to other countries, other actual real countries? And if it happens to be hovering up near the top, then you think, well, might be just the grace of God, might be just good fortune, but it is possible that we've got something right, and that we shouldn't muck around with it too much, and that we should have some gratitude for it. And yet we have people, plenty arrogant, purveying utopias left and right and saying, hey, look, the utopia hasn't come yet, and the reason for that is you're a misogynistic bigot. And so I would say to people who want to be conservative, first of all, you have every right to be conservative, and there's nothing wrong with you for being conservative. And second, it's like it's time to get the hell organized and push back and get that 5% of hyper-educated, resentful, utopian dreamers who would like to bring the whole goddamn civilization to its knees out of the systems of power. And if you're afraid of speaking your mind as a conservative, well, stumble a bit, make a few mistakes, man. But if you start saying what you think carefully, people will correct you and you'll get better at it. And you better start doing it, because the situation that we're in, I think it's worse than it looks. That's how it looks to me. It's not the same country it was 10 years ago. We need to wake up, and we need to stop this from happening.